Week 11 is in the books. We are on to week 12. And of course, with that comes our Tuesday tier list. We are coming down to the wire in the NFL season. These tiers are getting harder and harder to complete. But as always, let us start with the 2026 mock draft season tier. The New York Jets, man, the New York Jets announced that they are benching Justin Fields. Tyrod Taylor is going to be the starter probably for the rest of the season. I don't see the team getting much better. Again, you trade Sauce Gardner, you trade Quinnen Williams, you bench Justin Fields. Everything is pointing towards this team looking ahead to 2026. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that, man. That's where the future is. The Cleveland Browns, whether it's Dylan Gabriel or Shador Sanders, I think this is the tier for them. It's kind of crazy that how many quarterbacks they started with on the roster this year. And I don't know if any of them are going to be the opening day starter for next season. The Browns defense is uber legit, and Myles Garrett's probably going to win another Defensive Player of the Year, but the offense just has absolutely zero juice to it whatsoever. Tennessee Titans, man. The Tennessee Titans, outside of quarterback, in terms of surrounding cast, offensive line, weapons, defense, etc., may be the worst roster in football. It feels like it's impossible to judge Cam Ward off of his rookie season. Head coach fired midseason. Multiple weapons injured throughout the season, and even when they were healthy, it wasn't a good cast of guys. The Titans are really, really far down in the dumps, man, as are the Las Vegas Raiders. And the Raiders kind of feel directionless to me, man. They traded for an extended Geno Smith. Pete Carroll's not getting any younger. You're 2-8 after the loss to the Cowboys. They are in a bad, bad way. But similar to the Browns, man, at least they got an absolute freak of nature at the defensive end position. I wouldn't be shocked if we saw Max Crosby's name come up in trade talks this offseason the way that we saw it at the deadline. I still got the Bengals in this tier, man. The defense is just so bad. Trey Hendrickson's been out for a while. Joe Burrow's projected to come back on Thanksgiving for this team, but they're 3-7. They're going to be without him next week, without Jamar Chase after Spitgate 2.0 this season, and they play New England. So something tells me the Bengals are about to fall to 3-8. The New Orleans Saints as well in this tier. They're coming off of a bye week, so nothing really much to report on for them. Throughout the rest of the season, they're just kind of seeing if Tyler Shuck is good enough for them to roll into next season with him and continue to build a roster. And I think it's possible that he is, man. He's got a pretty solid arm. A pretty old rookie overall. I don't know if he's the next franchise quarterback, but he could potentially be a guy who gets another year, man. The New York Giants, they were without Jackson Dart this week. Malik Neighbors, Cam Scatabo, their two best weapons are out for the year. They fired Dayball. I think it's all about keeping Dart as healthy as possible and just seeing some really continuous good football from him. The one thing that I'll say about Dart is he hasn't really turned the ball over this year, so hopefully we could see that continue going forward for him. The Washington Commanders, they lost to Miami. Their whole team is just injured. If I was them, I'd probably just shelf Jaden Daniels for the season. I know that he probably wants to compete, but he's been injured multiple times this year. It feels like maybe he's rushed coming back on some of those injuries. I think the best thing to do for your franchise quarterback's health is keep him on the shelf. Same thing with Terry McLaurin, and kind of just punt the season at this point in time. The Arizona Cardinals, Jacoby Brissett literally just set the record for most pass completions in a game. Didn't matter. They still got absolutely blown out. Marvin Harrison Jr., will he be back this week? I don't know. Maybe the Cardinals should be up in the Frisky tier because I do feel like they're decently better than some of these teams. But at this point in time, the season's over, and probably so is the Kyler Murray era. And then the Atlanta Falcons, man. Michael Penix potentially suffered a season-ending leg injury if he's done for the year. We saw what Kirk Cousins did with these guys last year. It just wasn't good football whatsoever. And it's crazy to say they have a top 10 pick in the draft, except they don't, because they traded it to the Rams to trade back into the first round and get James Pierce Jr. So Atlanta, in a real bad way. I think it's possible we see the GM and head coach fired this offseason, and it wouldn't be without cause. Moving into the Frisky tier, man, and I'm shocked I'm doing it, but I'm moving the Miami Dolphins up, man. Over the last month, they played some real quality ball. They went overseas. They got a tough, grinded out victory. And the trio of Tua, A-Chain, and Jalen Waddle has been pretty productive. And that feels like the future for Miami. Their ownership group and GM came out and said Mike McDaniel and Tua are going to be back next year. And I think if you pair Miami with some better guys on defense, develop that young offensive line, maybe draft another piece or two, they can be a, competing playoff team, especially in an AFC right now that we're seeing a lot of momentum changing, man. They got a lot of speed on that offense, especially when you factor in Malik Washington. If Tyreek Hill could get back out there, they could be really dynamic and a real interesting team in 2026. I still have the Jags and Frisky. And I know some people are going to say, come on, you got to show some love and respect to what the Jags are doing out there. They're 6-4 at this point in time, and they just got a monster win over the Chargers. And I get it if that's your argument. I just don't believe in this football team. Trevor Lawrence didn't play great in the win. The defense, they were able to get home, but to me, this may just be more of a product of how long was it going to go before things kind of collapsed for the Chargers. They desperately need a bye week. I'm really excited to see what they look like coming out of that bye because it's not the easiest road of schedule, but we'll talk about the Chargers when we get there. But it's 6-4, man, and a very turnover dependent defense, a quarterback that I don't believe in. I'm still going to have the Jags in Frisky because there are some teams that are quote unquote in the hunt in the AFC playoffs that I just think are much better than Jacksonville. And I'd be pretty stunned if this team made it to the playoffs. I still got the Dallas Cowboys in this tier as well. Dallas played a great game, but it was against the Raiders. And while I did say in that video, and it is true, I see the vision for 2026, for 2025, man, it feels like this is going to be a Cowboys team that beats the crap out of teams that are in like the mock draft season tier and maybe even in the Frisky tier. Like they are the best of the bad teams, but it doesn't, to me, feel like they're a good team. They're 4-5-1. They got some tough games ahead. I'm excited to see them play Philly this upcoming weekend, and we'll see kind of where they stack up to one of the better teams in the NFL post Quinnen Williams trade, because they do have a really fun offense and that front seven's looking type nice now, but we just haven't seen Dallas really do it against a high level team this season. Minnesota is still in this tier. They're kind of teetering on Frisky and mock draft season because JJ McCarthy just is not ready for prime time at this point in time. And if I'm the Vikings, you have to ride it out with him. You have to let him go through these de facto rookie year struggles. You have pieces that are young and worth building around in Minnesota. But if you're going to have high level success, it's going to come with JJ McCarthy. So you might as well just kind of take your medicine and let him grow here. He had a good fourth quarter versus the Bears, and he did put them in a position to win that football game. Now, he didn't play great through the first three quarters, so obviously he's one of the main reasons they were down. But again, you are seeing some highs and lows of JJ McCarthy. I would really just let him grow through it. And then I have the Carolina Panthers in this tier. You could really argue the Panthers should be moved up to fringe playoffs as well. I want to see them play the Niners. I want to see them play the Niners because theoretically, if Penix doesn't get hurt, even though Bryce had the best game of his career, I'm not sure that the Panthers win that game. So let me see Carolina this upcoming Monday versus a legit playoff team in San Francisco, who they look pretty solid now that they're healthy. And if the Panthers not even just win that game, but go toe-to-toe with San Francisco and look competitive in that game, they'll probably get moved up, man. 6-5, Bryce looking the best he's ever looked. Tedero McMillan is a legit wide receiver one. Dave Canales has started to figure out this offense. Regardless of where the season goes, I'm pretty excited for the future of this Carolina Panthers squad. The fringe playoff teams tier, man, it's a short tier this week. We got the Houston Texans here. They got a victory over the Tennessee Titans. Again, backup Davis Mills. They're going to play the Bills. We still don't know. I'm recording this Monday night whether or not CJ Stroud will play, so we'll see where that all shakes out. Obviously, I'll have more information when I do my predictions video on Thursday. But the Texans, I think they have the best defense in football. Will Anderson Jr. and Danielle Hunter absolutely wreak havoc. Derek Stingley is a beast. Davis Mills has come in and really fulfilled the role of a backup in 2 starts. He's 2-0 now, 2 divisional wins. That's nothing to scoff at. Nico Collins has really gotten going. Houston is back to 5-5, and they're starting to show some life. Is it too little too late? I don't know, but they got a tiebreaker over Baltimore. And they got a big game with Kansas City coming up and a big game with Buffalo coming up. So Houston has some big games, but their destiny is in their hands. I just hope for their sake that CJ Stroud can get back out there sooner rather than later. And I got the Pittsburgh Steelers in this tier, man. Pittsburgh is still leading the AFC North. I don't believe that it's going to end that way at this point in time. Rodgers likely to miss some time, but to be honest, it didn't look like the team shifted that much when Mason Rudolph went out there. They're just not a very dynamic offense, and a lot of their plays revolve around Rack. Obviously, Rodgers was good for making a couple, big throws every other week, throw on the run, vintage Rodgers. But the story of the team's the defense right now, man. They had 2 defensive touchdowns last week versus the Bengals. We'll be interested to see what they turn out to be. Big matchup with the Bears this week. And if they lose this game and Baltimore wins their game, all of a sudden, those 2 teams are tied. They play each other 2 more times this season, or should I just say 2 times this season. We'll probably decide the division, but my faith in Pittsburgh is certainly dwindling. Hey, sorry to interrupt the video. I hope you were enjoying. I just wanted to take a moment to ask you to hit the like button and the subscribe button as we are looking to grow this channel. I really do appreciate all of your guys' support. Let's hop back into the video. We move to a loaded playoff teams tier, and we're going to start with the Chargers. They've been living in this tier. They did get absolutely punched in the mouth by Jacksonville, and I thought it was only a matter of a time before we saw a game like this. Justin Herbert was just getting beat up game after game. He had to come out of the game. Kamani Vidal had to come out of the game. Like, no team could use a bye quite like the Chargers could use a bye. It felt like they were just ready to be on the bye, if we're being honest. They showed up with no energy versus Jacksonville. West Coast to East Coast, 1 o'clock time slot. So I'm not going to read too much into it. When I look at the Chargers, they still have a really solid quarterback. They still have a really good head coach and a really good defense. They're 7-4 at this point in time. Is it possible that they fall out of the playoffs? I'm not going to say it's not possible, but to me, they still feel like a decent bet to make it to the playoffs. I'm going to put their AFC West, another team, the Kansas City Chiefs, man. Kansas City. It's a team that I have been pretty consistently putting in my Super Bowl favorites tier. And I got to eat it on them because I thought that they were going to come out of their bye week and give Denver the work. And Denver outplayed them in all facets. Denver's defense was better. Bo Nix outplayed Patrick Mahomes. Very shocking to me that without Pat Surtain and without Singleton, coming off of a bye, Andy Reid and Mahomes could only muster up 19 points when Travis Kelce had a massive day, man. Like, Travis Kelce was looking like vintage Travis Kelce, and it just still wasn't enough. Mahomes really not playing great football this year, if we're being honest. And at this point in time, Kansas City's 5-5. They're 0-5 in one-score games. And, the same reasons last year that I gave them credit for being 11-0 in one-score games, we're at the point now where I got to start saying, hey, like, you just haven't shown an ability to win clutch and make clutch plays. And, they're 10 games into their season. I got to stop living in the past, and I got to grade Kansas City where they're at. And where they're at is just a playoff team. I do think that they'll make the playoffs. I know that they're out right now, but I think that this is still a fair ranking for KC. And I got Baltimore in the same tier. Baltimore played Cleveland. It wasn't really an impressive win, but Cleveland does have a great defense, and you got that AFC North divisional game. I think the most important thing for Baltimore was they got out with a W, but I just got to see one of those explosive games from Baltimore where Lamar looks like the best player on the planet. The defense forces a couple turnovers, and they really show out. On my preview show, I predicted them to win like 38-7. If we had seen that, I think we could have been talking about Baltimore Super Bowl contenders, but they're going to hang out in the playoff team tier for right now. We got an NFC log pile here. Detroit. Detroit is 6-4 and currently out of the playoffs. I still think that Detroit has all the ability in the world to win their division. It's a very competitive, very close division. In terms of head coach, I do like Dan Campbell. Jahmyr Gibbs is an absolute freak. Amon-Ra, Jameson Williams. Philly was able to pressure Goff in the cold. Bad matchup for them. I do question if Detroit can hang with the big boys, but I also question how many big boys there actually are in the NFC. I'm going to as well put the Bears in this tier. They're currently leading the NFC North. They're 7-3. Comeback kid Bears. A lot of fourth quarter comebacks this year. And it makes me wonder how sustainable this is. On one hand, again, the same way that I talked about the Chiefs aren't getting it done in those spots, the Bears consistently are. And winning in the clutch, coming up big in the fourth quarter is a skill. They have really cut down on the penalties. Caleb's playing some really solid ball. They have a real running attack. The defense does force turnovers. So there are some things for Chicago that are absolutely really good signs, but the schedule gets tough, man. They play the Packers twice. They play the Lions again. They play Philly. They have a matchup with the Niners. So I'm really interested to see where Chicago pans out. And Green Bay, man, this NFC North is all in this tier because I don't know if I view it, I don't view any of them as legit Super Bowl contenders. And I don't even know if they're all going to be able to make the playoffs. Probably one of them misses. Right now, I'd probably lean Green Bay, which is kind of crazy to say, but Josh Jacobs got banged up. We'll see if he plays. Jordan Love actually made some really solid throws versus the Giants in a game that he unfortunately had to make some really solid throws to beat Jameis Winston and the New York Giants. So, on one hand, great from Jordan Love because he had some really solid balls in that game. But on another hand, the fact that you needed some really solid passes to beat the Giants is a little bit concerning. I still got Tampa in this tier, 6-4. They got to get healthy. It feels like these defenses are starting to figure out how to play them. And we'll talk about Buffalo in a second, but 32 points on the offense wasn't terrible, but they got to get Igboka rolling more, man. Sean Tucker obviously had a big game, but you can't rely on that week to week. We'll see. Tampa's cooled off a little bit for me personally. And then I got the Niners in this tier, man. Loaded playoff teams here, I know. A highly efficient offense with Shanahan back. And honestly, in a one-game sample of all these NFC playoff teams, the Niners might scare me the most because they're well coached. They've been in big spots, and their offense at its best might be the scariest here. With Purdy, McCaffrey, they still don't even have Ayuk back, but Pearsall, Jennings, Kittle, like they're really solid. And Saleh is coaching his ass off on that defense. I still think that they're a little bit too, short on talent to compete for a Super Bowl this year, but the future is looking really, really solid, especially for next year in San Francisco, if they can get that defense healthy and keep Saleh. Moving into the Super Bowl contenders tier, man, we have the Indianapolis Colts. They're coming off of a bye week, so nothing really changes for them. I'm excited to see that defense, kind of in their second half of their season with Sauce Gardner and with some development over there. The offense was a really well-oiled machine for the first 9 weeks of the season. Daniel Jones started to get a little turnover happy, so we'll see where that turns out to be. Jonathan Taylor's having a career season. The touchdown numbers are absolutely ridiculous. Tyler Warren, Pittman, Downs, you guys know, everybody that the Colts has. I have the Buffalo Bills back up into this tier. The Bills have been one of the toughest teams for me to figure out, man, because they're 7-3. The record on paper, fantastic. Quality wins, man. They've beaten Kansas City and they've beaten Tampa Bay in the last month. But their losses are really concerning. They lose to the Miami Dolphins, who are a team that they should be just miles ahead of at this point in time. They lose to Atlanta, who's kind of really bad and struggling to win football games. And you look at Buffalo, there's a clear weakness to this team, and you can run all over them. I mean, Sean Tucker for the, Tampa Bay Buccaneers had a career day against this team. But they're 7-3, and of the top tier AFC teams in terms of records right now, Josh Allen's clearly the best quarterback. And we saw in this game, if he gets on a heater, they could drop a bomb on you offensively. I don't know where to rule things with them. Would I bet on Buffalo to win the Super Bowl right now? Probably not, but there's going to be a lot of inexperienced teams in the AFC playoffs, and the more experienced teams are going to be battling from like the 6 and 7 spot. There's a world where Buffalo sneaks past New England, wins that division, and is hosting playoff games where Kansas City and Baltimore got to go on the road, and then you have some inexperienced teams. I could see Buffalo making some noise, but that run defense really worries me, man, especially in cold weather. And I'm leaving Seattle in this tier. Darnold had 4 interceptions, and as time was expiring, they were still kicking a field goal to potentially beat the Rams. They didn't beat the Rams, and the reasons I had them in this tier and the Rams ahead of them, and the reasons I picked the Rams to win that game kind of came to light in that game. What's Darnold going to look like against a good team when he's getting pressured? The answer is a pumpkin. Like, he 100% cost him that game. I don't care what Byron Murphy or Leonard Williams or whoever it was says. Like, yes, Darnold is part of the reason Seattle's where they're at. No doubt about it. But I think it's also fair to admit the other quarterback didn't turn the ball over once, and your quarterback turned the ball over 4 times and you lost by 2. If you had better quarterback play, you probably win that game, and you probably win it pretty handily. Seattle's defense to keep them in that game and to really slow down the Rams offense was super impressive. Ken Walker, he's starting to get going. JSN's a top 5 receiver in the sport. So if Sam Darnold can rise up to the moment and deal with pressure better, sky's the limit for Seattle, but that is a real concern for them for sure. And then we move into the Super Bowl favorites tier, man. We got the New England Patriots 9-2, currently the number 2 seed in the AFC. Drake May, top 2 candidate for MVP. Travion Henderson seems fully unlocked. The run defense is legit. Stephon Diggs has been getting better and better as he's been ramping up. Remember, 31 years old, still kind of post-tearing his ACL. They've had a really good offensive success without Kayshon Boutte. They're going to get him back. They've got some real pieces. The O-line worries me a little bit. It certainly does. But Drake May has shown an excellent ability to navigate the pocket and make tough throws this year. The secondary isn't perfect, but it is headed by a top 5 corner in Christian Gonzalez. And right now it's undeniable that the Patriots are playing some really solid football, and they're a top 2 team in the AFC, man. And the other team up here, the number 1 seeded Denver Broncos. Bo Nix is their biggest X factor. But in their biggest game of the season, hosting Kansas City to not lock up the division, but put the nail in the coffin, Bo Nix outplayed Patrick Mahomes. And we have to show him respect for that. The defense is top 2 in football. They held the Kansas City Chiefs, fully healthy offensively, by the way, to under 20 points without Pat Surtain and without Singleton. That defensive line might set the NFL sack record. Zach Allen, Nick Bonito, Jonathan Cooper. They got slot nickel corners coming in blitzing, getting defensive player of the week. They are a freaking unit, and Sean Payton's a hell of a coach. Their offensive line keeps Bo Nix upright, and Bo Nix is starting to get it going. Bo Nix is starting to get it going. I worry about the run game without Dobbins, but there's no denying that the Denver, I think they've won 8 in a row. I don't think they've lost in the last 2 months, Denver. So they're playing some really good ball, man. They kind of remind me of Philly a little bit. The offense, a little shaky at times. You know that you're leaving meat on the bone, but the defense is super strong, man. Philly might have the deepest defensive line now with Jalen Phillips and Brandon Graham and Nolan Smith healthy. You have Hunt, you have Jalen Carter, Ajomo, Jordan Davis. Like, there are bodies there. And over the last 2 weeks, Philly has really disrupted 2 solid NFC teams and the Packers and Lions offensively. Quinyon Mitchell's having an all-pro season, and hell, you could even say Cooper DeJean is as well. The offense hasn't figured it out, but I think they're trending in the right direction, man. And I said this about Denver a couple weeks ago, where I thought things were kind of trending in the right direction. I think that they are for Philly, man. I really do. I think getting A.J. Brown going a little bit is going to open up some things for the run game. The Lane Johnson injury sucks, but winning's a skill, man. And Philly's 8-2. They remind me of last year's Chiefs. Not every game's pretty, but most of the games are resulting in W's. And then the Rams, man. I think the Rams are playing the best football of any team in the NFL right now. I think Matthew Stafford's the MVP. He didn't have a lights-out statistical game versus Seattle, but he took care of the football. He made plays when they needed him to. It's a 2-dimensional offense with Kyron Williams and Blake Corum, a really solid run game. Puka and Devontae Adams. You could argue it's the best wide receiver duo in football. The O-line is solid. The defensive line disrupted. The defense won the Rams the game. They picked off Sam Darnold 4 times, and those were 4 clean turnovers. The Rams, to me, are playing the best football of any team in the NFL today. So that is the tier list as we head into week 12. What would you change? What would you not change? What would you think of the video? If you made it this far, thumbs up button. It's good for the algorithm. Growing the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you love the NFL, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.